No doubt, these are complicated issues, and tonight, John Nicola is going to do the favor of unpacking all of this for us. But before we do that, I'd like to provide a little measure of context, and I think a good place to start is with the Liberal narrative, the idea that they're trying to level the playing field. A playing field that the Liberals and Justin Trudeau so pithily characterized in what I would say is an ill-informed, sweeping statement, and I think the Prime Minister put it something like this. He said, "It's not fair that an individual who's making a salary of $50,000 would pay more tax than a business owner making $250,000. Now, I'll let John unpack everything else, but I'm going to take a shot at this one. Okay, the math, it just doesn't add up. If the Prime Minister took a $50,000 salary and he put it into TurboTax, it would tell him that an individual in BC earning that salary would pay anywhere from $6,000 to roughly $8,300 in tax, depending on whether they made an RSP contribution or not. If he then took the $250,000 business income and he put it into business TurboTax, it would tell him that the business would pay about $32,400 in tax. No matter which way you cut it, $32,000 is more than $6,000 to $8,000. The math just doesn't add up. I think it's pretty clear who these tax reforms are targeting, and I think we can all agree that it's farmers, it's doctors, it's business owners, and it's the entrepreneurs in this country. But I think a question we should ask is, who is it not targeting? Because I don't think it's targeting the publicly traded companies on Bay Street who will continue to enjoy a 26% tax rate on their active income, active business income, who also currently enjoy a 26% rate of tax on their passive investment income. Private corporations already pay a 50% rate of tax on their passive investment income. Now, it's true when compared to employed individuals, business owners, incorporated professionals, farmers, you do enjoy a tax benefit. As I mentioned earlier, you enjoy the benefit of the deferral between the active rate of business tax that you pay and the highest personal marginal rates. So as long as you don't pay out a dividend from your company, you have a deferral. But are you getting a better deal? No, not when you consider startup costs, business loans, lack of pension and health benefits, the cost of keeping lights on, and of course, retaining your staff. We would argue that perhaps the playing field is already level. Are the Liberals looking to solve a problem that doesn't exist? If anything, this proposed tax reform creates an imbalance, tipping the scales in favor of everyone and every other type of entity except for yourself. And that's why so many organizations and associations are lobbying against these proposed changes. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business. These changes won't just affect the wealthy, as the government has implied. They directly target small business owners who make daily sacrifices to keep their businesses alive, support their families, and create jobs in their communities. The Canadian Medical Association, they're against it, citing, "Physicians are up in arms because they do not have pensions or benefits, and the tax changes will make it near impossible for them to save for retirement, to finance maternity or parental leave, to work part-time while raising a family, and to repay debt accrued during their studies." The Canadian Chamber of Commerce. It is the farmers, the ma and pa shops, the entrepreneurs who invested everything in their business that will be most affected by these changes. And the list goes on, from the Agricultural Manufacturers Association of Canada right through to the Western Canadian wheat growers. Who else is against it? The NDP? Wow. The NDP, of course, as you know, who's normally in favor of taxing the wealthy, they're all vowing, all these associations and organizations are all vowing to fight this on behalf of hardworking Canadians. Now, not many of you here in this room have the benefit of a defined benefit pension plan and job security. And you're not alone, not many incorporated professionals and business owners do. But do you know who do have these benefits? The civil servants and the very MPs who are proposing to place this additional tax burden on you. Perhaps a question we should be asking about the playing field is, which way does it need to be leveled? I think by now we're all acutely aware that the Liberal line of leveling the playing field is a false narrative. But what about the concept of closing loopholes? Let's take a quick look at that one. The Liberals have admitted, if it wasn't already apparent, that they haven't exactly communicated all of this very well. Proposing a substantial tax reform with language that many perceive as a slap in the face for honest, hardworking, tax-paying Canadians, I think we'd all agree is misguided at best. Crysta Ross, the CEO of the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, so succinctly put it, I think. Characterizing the last 45 years of Canadian tax policy as loopholes is insulting to businesses that have worked within the rules in good faith to build their businesses, to save for retirement, and sometimes just to keep their doors open. She's not wrong. Professionals and entrepreneurs aren't out to scam the system. They incorporate for a number of reasons, including protecting themselves from liability, maximizing return on investment, and of course, saving for your retirement. And I think it's unfair that they have been characterized as being out to dodge taxes. Now, many incorporated individuals, some of you here in this room, you haven't been shy about letting the Prime Minister, the Finance Minister, and other MPs know exactly how you feel about the wording that they've used. You've sent emails and you've sent letters, and I think this one, with Twitter, which has produced a particularly amusing pushback. We've got doctors and farmers, both of whom feel they've been labeled unfairly. They've been tweeting pics of themselves hard at work in the hospital or in the field with the hashtag tax shelter. Some mockingly accusing Trudeau of spot the loophole. No, of course, it didn't have to be this way. The Liberals have no one to blame on this one but themselves. The entire consultation process has been flawed since the beginning, starting with the short consultation period, 75 days. Now, the last time tax reform of this magnitude took place, it took over 6 years' worth of consultation. Now, at the risk of sounding cynical, and I think what this signals to me and a number of other experts is that the Liberals have no intention of consultation. They have an intention to push this through no matter what Canadians have to say about it. And I think the Liberals should know better, not just because of how these proposals will impact all of you, but possibly how will these proposals impact the Canadian economy. Now, according to Stats Canada, last year, there was 115,000 businesses that were started in Canada, and 100,000 of those failed. So with an over 80% failure rate, entrepreneurs need incentives, not disincentives, to start businesses. I think to take on all the risk, to put out all the blood, sweat, and tears, and if you're lucky enough to be one of the 20% that survive, only to have those outcomes taxed at 70%, I think that's a recipe for disincentive. Now, I think there's one thing that we could all agree on, no matter which side of the political spectrum we lie on. It's that small businesses in Canada fuel our economy. And we do that through sound tax policy, and we know that small businesses ignite innovation, and they stimulate economic growth. Now, it's important to reiterate that if the government moves forward with these proposals, some of them will be enacted this year. So it just makes sense for us, all of us, to be proactive, not only with our planning, but with our politics. So with that overview in mind, I'd like to take the opportunity to now introduce our next speaker, John Nicola.